Welcome, brothers and sisters, to the Meher Baba program. I'm Fred Stankus, along with my co-host Suhas Ginde. Welcome, Suhas.
Thank you.
Today is a part 2 of last week's program, but actually you could say it's part 6 of the Gems from Lord Meher. We are covering the biography of Avatar Meher Baba, and we're now in volume 4, which covers the years 1929 to 1932. And Meher Baba has given various messages and discourses to his close followers and his disciples, which are called Mandali. And in this year, I believe it's 1929, Baba was talking about the stages of creation. And this was a short discourse he gave, and he described this. And so Suhas,
this picture.
Yes, there's a beautiful picture of Baba too that maybe the cameraman could get. This is Meher Baba in 1930, sitting in a wicker chair. It's beautiful. He's sitting in India there, and you can see how beautiful Meher Baba is. 1930. That's 73 years ago, and Baba is now giving this discourse. It almost looks like that, I guess. That'd be the same period of time. And Baba is talking to his disciples about the evolution of creation has 7 stages.
Well, he was explaining the significance of the number 7. The evolution of creation has 7 stages, says Baba. There are 7 planes and 7 types of desires. All these 7 should be eradicated once and for all.
So is that why people consider 7 the special number?
7 is a spiritual number, you know, in the Genesis.
Lucky 7, they call it.
Well, God created the heavens and the earth 6 days, and the 7th day he rested. The calendar is based on 7 days in a week.
7 days in a week.
You know, Sunday through Saturday, and so on.
Exactly.
And 7 was considered as a spiritual number from generations. So he said the evolution of creation has 7 stages. There are 7 planes and 7 types of desires. All these 7 should be eradicated once and for all. However, the number 7 is significant. There are 7 types of sanskaras or impressions, 7 types of colors, 7 types of flights of imagination, and 7 types of sounds. The reason all these have 7 variations is that in the beginning of creation, with the start of the original whim in the beyond state of God, there was a clash between matter, akash, and energy, or pran. And energy's powers were divided into 7 forces. The original sound coming out of the creation, or Om point, also turns into 7 sounds. This higher music of the mental and subtle planes is indescribably sweet. Even if you listen to it for 24 hours without a break, you would not tire of it. It is enrapturing. One absolutely drowns in its melody. But remember that in the mental and subtle sphere, the sweetness of this music sounds are only the shadows of the original sound.
My gosh, so this music is so sweet, but they are shadows of the original sound, which must be even sweeter.
Yes, and it's the original sound, meaning it came out of, before creation came about. It came out of creation, or the Om point. It turned into these 7 sounds. The 7 sounds are probably parts of the whole. In the gross world, the shadow of this melody is again divided into 7 parts. Only expert singers can express these tones and octaves. Sound is created by contact between 2 things. When you speak, your voice passes through 7 veils. But you do not notice this because the sound comes so quickly. Your physique, a byproduct of your sanskaras, determines whether your voice is sweet or harsh.
So do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Is that 7? Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Well, actually, I got 7 or 8 there. No, but anyway, so, my gosh, so when you speak, your voice passes through 7 veils. But you do not notice this. Because the sound comes so quickly. So we should listen if we could hear ourselves passing through each veil.
Yeah, well, you can tape your voice.
And like it says, your physique is a byproduct of your impressions. So it determines whether your voice is sweet or harsh. My God. So that's why sometimes when you meet somebody that has like a whether high voice or low voice, or my God.
That's your physique, is your physical.
Yeah.
And then Baba continues and says, everything is made up of seven subdivisions of the first subtle plane, which is the astral plane, and the 7 stages of evolution, 7 planes and 7 heavens in involution.
My gosh, so 7 subdivisions of the first subtle plane.
The astral, and
then the 7
stages of evolution and the 7 planes of involution.
So there's so much to traverse. I mean, how can one know about these things? How can one gain the knowledge? How can one experience these things?
Well,
these things exist. Why can't we have them? Why
we
can't
cannot, because we're not in touch with these things. We have to be above and beyond this level. That's only someone who's in a transcendental state like Baba, the perfect masters, can see all these things.
So it seems like it's hard to get, but once you're there, you've got it. You never lose it. Is that it? It's not like taking some inducement through some kind of a hallucinogenic thing, which puts you in a state like people, they say on LSD, will rise to a state of elevated consciousness, but then they drop like a rock.
But that's self-induced.
Yes.
And doesn't last forever. This is continuous. What the masters experience is actually an experience that happens to them and doesn't come from drugs. It's continuous, unbroken perfection. So
there's another page now I'd like to go to, and do you want to go to that page on 1269, where Baba says love and surrender about the path?
Yeah. Love and surrender, Baba explained about the path. Love and surrender both lead one to the goal. But generally in the path of love, one drops his body after reaching the final destination, what I told you an hour ago. One drops his body after reaching the final destination.
That's right. You described it to me like as though your body will fall off like a shell, like a husk.
After so many days, maybe 7 to 21. Whereas the one who treads the path of surrender, besides becoming conscious of God, also becomes conscious of the 3 spheres, the gross, subtle, and mental, and thus returns to God consciousness to serve as a beacon of light to others on the path. This too I explained to you. That is why surrendering is better than love. A Madzub has no other consciousness except of God. This is a God-realized being only. For him only God exists and nothing else. So there is no gross, subtle, or mental consciousness. He is fully and divinely absorbed. After gaining normal consciousness, however, one can become conscious of the gross, subtle, and mental planes. Because of this, the Kutubs are able to lead others on the path and make them like themselves. See, after becoming God-realized, they come back to the gross level of consciousness, our level of consciousness, so they can bring us up to the level which they are at. That is the difference. And
they don't want to do anything else. That's their main mission, to help us when they reach that point. There's nothing else desires in them to do.
They only have the knowledge, the desires of giving special impetus to knowledge.
Yes.
There's no other motive or desire as a wanting. The Kutub's knowledge of normal consciousness is called Irfan by Sufis, and it is absolutely unique. One cannot even imagine it. And what does it say?
Yeah, on the footnote it says, Sufis call spiritual knowledge Irfan, I-R-F-A-N, or Gnosis. Such inner knowledge is held by the Purs, Walis, and Kitubs. And this refers to God speaks for clarification of that.
The Pirs are the 6th plane masters, and the Walis are the 5th plane masters. Wali means friend of God. Alongside their state of divinity, the perfect masters remain in the dirt of the world, the ocean of life. They work in the maya of the illusory world through this, though this dirt does not touch them. They're like diamonds in the dirt. On the contrary, they lift others from the world and purify them. Therefore, surrender to a perfect master is the best method of treading the path, and there is no better way than that for reaching the objective, God realization, which is becoming one with God. And surrender means surrendering the ego mind to the master.
Right, on page 1275 now, Baba goes into something to deal with past lives and of somebody who abruptly would pass on.
So this was based on a question one of his disciples, early disciples, asked him. There's a person in Mysore who remembers his past lives. I've read that he recognizes his previous parents, their home, and every detail. And then Baba commented briefly, there are such persons who abruptly remember events of their past lives. They generally are those who die in a sudden accident, the shock of which has such a force on them that it leaves impressions of their last birth, which they remember in their present birth. But this has nothing to do with realizing the truth or advancement on the planes. And
then the next day, Baba talked about the
power of his name.
Right.
The group's conversation topic turned to wild animals, for there were tigers, lions, and bears roaming the jungle surrounding Mysore. It's a southern state in India. And Meher Baba advised, if you ever come across such savage animals, or if you find yourselves in a perilous situation, cry out my name loudly, I will then save you. Even if you die, you should know that I've saved you, because my protection is real protection. I always protect my lovers. There's a difference between remembering my name and actually saying it out loud. In the eventuality of your body being overcome with fear in the presence of any wild animal or other creature such as a snake, at such moments of danger you should loudly cry out my name, so loud that the sound of my name falls on the creature's ears, which will immediately make it as meek as a lamb. But before inanimate objects, during any serious mishap or accident, such as a car crash or a train wreck, you will be saved by remembering me with full faith from the bottom of your heart.
You know something, I have to add a story. What occurred in Miami, Florida. And these people were in a motel room. And they had a knock on the door. They opened the door. It was a robber. He came in the room and he said, I'm going to, take your possessions. Give me them or give me your life. It just so happened, this gentleman, I believe it was Scott O'Neill, he was a youngster at the time, in his 20s. He was reading God Speaks by Meher Baba. And all he did is he said, you know who this is? God Speaks. This is Meher Baba. He says he's the God-man of the age. And suddenly, this robber, they said, just turned around and ran. And I don't know if it has something to do with the power of Baba's name or words, but it just reminded me of that story by reading that paragraph there. And then Baba speaks about the various stages of development a person has to pass through.
Well, then Baba says a person has to pass through three stages before realization: evolution, reincarnation, and advancement on the path.
Sure.
From stone to animal to human form is evolution. This is the first stage. With the human form, evolution ends and the cycle of rebirth begins. This is the second stage. The third stage is involution through the spiritual planes.
Remember in that book, The Nothing and Everything, you came up with a number of 50,400,000.
I think you did.
Yeah, 50,400,000 is the final, is the amount of times a soul takes on forms, 50,400,000 forms. And Baba says it's 8,400,000 through gaseous, through metal, through through plants, through insects, fish, birds. There are 8,400,000 birds, 8,400,000 animals, and then the human being goes through 8,400,000 births and deaths. Of course, the soul is always one, but Baba says the grand total number of a soul transitioning from the initial state to know himself and to the final state of knowing he's God is 50,400,000.
Wow. That's a lot of lifetimes. He says, in Africa there's a full swing of evolution as all types of animals, plants, and metals are found there. In Europe and America, reincarnation has intensified with numerous people taking birth after birth entangled together. And in Asia, there is spiritual progress and advancement on the path. That is why saints and masters are found in the East, particularly India.
You know, this is very, very impressive. So there's 3 sections of the continent that, according to this is the 1930, okay? He says, Africa is full swing of evolution, as all types of animals, plants, and metals are found there. In Europe and America, reincarnation is intensified and numerous people taking birth after birth entangled together. Our Western cultures, you know, our material cultures, this and that. And then it says in Asia, there is spiritual progress and advancement on the path. And says that's why saints and masters are found in the East, particularly in India. And of course, you have the tradition of the Buddhist monks, the Shinto priests, the Tao in China or in Thailand and so forth. You follow? And so, and my gosh, that's amazing, huh? So that's why
more people have died due to wars in Europe and America than in other parts of the world. In other parts of the world, they may have died through famine and other calamities, natural calamities. But these wars probably help the reincarnation process.
Yes.
Terminates people's lifetimes before they're ready.
Yes. Oh, here's another photograph. I don't know if the cameraman can zoom in on this. This is Baba with his disciples about circa 1930. There's Baba in the middle. And there's some of his disciples. There's his alphabet board. Baba didn't speak, by the way. A lot of people, we failed to mention that.
This was in Madras.
Yeah. Baba took a vow of silence in 1925. He could speak. He was about age 30. And he took a vow of silence saying there's been enough words given in past incarnations of God. Now it's time for man to start living the words, and my silence will be somewhat of a impetus to that effect. That man will put into actual living instead into this reading. And then here's another one on, another discourse Baba has given on, well, that was the travels. And we go now to this page here, which I think is great. It's on Nature of Love on 1293. Baba has described what love is in regards to the nature of loving Baba. And that was March 30th, I guess, 1930.
Oh, yes. On March 30th, some devotees, I think this was in 1930, some devotees came to Nasik to see Baba, who expounded on the nature of love to them. Love me and you will know me, but I'm such a reality that it is extremely difficult to know me. The price is love. No repetition of God's name, no penance, and no meditation is necessary. Only love, and such love that it annihilates your ego. This means your love should be so deep that it will make you forget yourself and the world. This experience will leave you desireless, dazed, and confounded. This is real love. You are feeling for me in your hearts, and because of it you may remember me often during the day, but you do not continuously. This feeling or devotion, though good, is not love. It should not be mistaken for love, because that real love, which is to see and know God, cannot be created. It has to be bestowed. It is bestowed through the grace of the Master, and such grace is conferred on a very, very lucky few. Still, do not be discouraged. Although you do not have the love that is needed, you have deep feeling for me. Try always to remember me and to speak of me. This is the best beginning. The determination to be ready to receive the Master's grace. If this continues, a day will come when you will be the lucky one to receive the great gift, the bestowal of my love. To be ready, perpetuate this feeling in your heart and increase it, making it deeper and deeper. How to begin? Remember me before starting and after finishing any work. Think of me before anything. If you have something to write something, remember me before starting, and then mentally say, Baba, it is you, not I, who is writing. A tavern keeper first receives cash from a customer before handing him the wine glass. He checks the coin to ascertain whether it is genuine or counterfeit. Similarly, the Sadguru also demands his price, not in money, but in love, before giving you the gift of love. You can deceive a wine seller by passing him counterfeit coins, but never a Sadguru. He has no use for false coins, the show of love. The show of love. With me, before the exchange takes place, one has to pay the full price. The price of knowing me is love. Love, pure and simple. But love entails pain, the pain of the pangs and thirst of separation while constantly burning. This gradually minimizes the strength of the ego and eventually destroys it, because love never thinks of or cares for itself. It just burns its victim in love for its beloved. This burning gradually diminishes the ego, and thus it is eventually totally annihilated. In this fire, love makes its victim realize the self.
You're talking about some stuff that's very, very mystical.
Yes.
This is the love. This kind of love is not the love that we loosely throw around the words.
That love that's between humans, it's called selfish love. This love for the divine is selfless love. And it's a stronger love because it has no demand for anything in return. See, selfish love demands something. So human love, when you give that love to someone, you expect something in return from the person you are in love with. But with the divine personality, no return is expected. It just is an outpouring, one way. And then automatically that love is returned to you, but not with the expectation that you're going to get it. It's just that it merges with the other love that's coming the other way, and everything becomes one. And that's God realization. The ego is totally annihilated or burned in this fire of this divine love. It is a sort of a fire that's not really a hot fire. It cools things out. And that's why it's a beautiful thing when people reach that God realization stage. It annihilates the ego, and as I explained to you earlier, you forget your surroundings and who you really are, and you merge into a higher level of consciousness from which there is no return. It's a permanent state. You cannot come back and start your life all over again like you used to.
How do you get this God realization?
He just explained to you through love. It's the grace of the avatar.
What if a person doesn't know who to love?
Well, a person loves whatever he knows, but it's an energy that goes out of him. Loving your fellow man is another way to express this love.
So you're saying if a person loves God in his own way, eventually he could reach that?
Yes.
But
it has to be an intense form of love that no one knows about it. It's a silent love that only the person showering this love on the beloved or to his fellow man through selfless service can manifest only for him and not for other people necessarily. It's love for the beloved. And it involves pain because there's a separation. Separation involves duality, so the two have to come together. On a mystical level is what I'm talking about, not a physical love. And people have asked in the past, how does one love God? And Baba said, when you fell in love with somebody, nobody taught you how to do that. It came automatically. So one has to have some kind of an impression of who this divine being is before one can start loving this personality. And this personality is only the impersonal God taking on a form, in the form of a personal God. So the avatar really becomes a bridge to the ultimate reality, which no one can describe. It's a state of being, it's existence, it's energy, everything, divine bliss, knowledge, power. These are abstract terms. When they are manifested into a human form, such as the avatar or perfect master, then we see a form that embodies this power. So there's really a power. You're not merging with the physical form of the avatar. It's the universal form of God Himself, which is also within us. A part of that is within us as an Atma, as compared to the Paramatma, the Oversoul. They're one and the same. So the ego, the drop soul, I should say, the drop soul that has a limited ego and the unlimited ego of the Paramatma, the Oversoul, they merge and become one and the same. They are one and the same. They just merge, so there's no separation. And that can only come about through love. It is the mind that creates the separation by the false ego identifying itself with the limited form, the body, and its desires.
It seems so difficult to attain.
It cannot be attained by people trying to do it. It's not something that you can buy with money. It just comes automatically when the person is ready, when he has done so many lifetimes of living and gone through all the suffering and it's balancing of the sanskaras, all that. It's a long journey, lifetime after lifetime, until one comes in contact with a perfect master or a sadguru or an avatar. And then he shortens the number of lifetimes by coming under his power. His grace does that.
That's a wonderful way to end it, Suhas. We've just been given the sign that it's time to wrap the show up. Thank you, Suhas. Until next time, as Meher Baba says, do your best in life, leave the rest to God.
Don't worry, be happy in my love.
Thank you. Jai Baba.